Honourable members, firstly, I thank most sincerely the Deputy Speaker, Honourable Lenora Karangarithambua, for presiding over this morning's session. That has enabled me to attend to some personal matters. Honourable members, you will recall that I had last night undertaken to deliver today my ruling on a point of order raised by the Honourable Chone Usumate, made against the Honourable Charanjit Singh, Minister for Public Enterprises, Multi-Ethnic Affairs, Culture, Heritage and Arts, on what appears to be at the moment an allegation of inappropriate behavior and conduct last evening. Unfortunately, the answered report for yesterday is yet to be available, and I will therefore defer my ruling, Honourable Usamate, and the honourable members of the House to a later date. Notwithstanding the delay and notwithstanding that there has yet to be a finding of facts, I stress once again that my primary role as a Speaker is to maintain order and decorum in Parliament, and in the exercise of the powers vested in me under the standing orders and the conventions, to protect the honour and the dignity of this Parliament. So I will therefore deal with the matter at hand, bearing the guidelines in mind as soon as the transcripts are available, and I'll return my ruling to the floor of this House as soon as it is available. So thank you, honourable members. We will now continue from where we left off this morning. But before that, please allow me to make a few announcements. An important event is being organized by the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians, the CWP Fiji Group. The CWP Fiji Group will officially launch its commemorative booklet entitled Celebrating Women in Parliament 1966 to 2026. And the launch will take place on Monday, the 3rd of August 2026, from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Grand Pacific Hotel. The publication will mark a significant milestone in recognizing and celebrating the contributions of women to Fiji's parliamentary history. It pays tribute to the lives, the leadership, and achievements of former women members of Parliament and senators who have served our nation with distinction over the past 6 decades. Through their dedication to public service, these pioneering women have helped shape Fiji's democratic institutions, strengthen parliamentary governance, and advance the interests of the people of Fiji. The launch provides an opportunity to honor the legacy, reflect on their achievements, and inspire future generations of women leaders to participate in public life and parliamentary service. It is at this juncture, honourable members, that I extend an invitation to you all to attend this special occasion and join our CWP Fiji Group Women's MPs in celebrating the invaluable contribution of women to Fiji's Parliament's journey. The Secretariat will coordinate the necessary proceedings, and please kindly take note that all the Standing Committee proceedings will be suspended on Monday, the 3rd of August, to enable everyone to attend. The second and final announcement is that the Parliament will host another segment of the Speaker's debate on the topic From Participation to Representation. How do we increase women in Parliament? As you are all aware, Parliament supports the achievement of SDG Target 5.5, recognizing that women remain significantly underrepresented in political leadership in Fiji, despite ongoing efforts to advance gender equality. As the current parliamentary term approaches its end, there is a timely need to strengthen national dialogue and implement practical strategies to promote and support greater participation of women in parliamentary representation and leadership. The speakers' debate will be held at the Grand Pacific Hotel on Thursday, the 6th of August at 5 p.m. Again, at this juncture, I extend a warm invitation to all honorable members to attend. There will be 5 panel speakers, and 2 of them will be the Minister for Women, Children and Social Protection, and the Honorable Shashi Kiran, the leader of the opposition, and also the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Seri Ratu. I trust that you will pencil in these 2 important days. Monday, 3rd of August, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. for CWP Fiji Group booklet launch, and Thursday, 6th of August, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the speakers' debate. I thank you, honorable members, for your indulgence. We will now move on to the next item of the agenda. Secretary General.
Consideration of bills.
Honorable members, I now call on the Minister for Finance, Commerce and Business Development, the Honorable Esrom Emmanuel, to move his motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to the resolution of Parliament on Friday, 26 June 2026, I move that the following consequential bills be debated, voted upon, and be passed. 1 is the Tax Administration Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 2, the Income Tax Budget Amendment Number 2 Bill 2026. 3, the Value Added Tax Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 4, Customs Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 5, Customs Tariff Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 6, Excise Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 7, the Fiji Revenue and Customs Services Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 8, the Tourism Services Tax Bill 2026. 9, Fiji National Provident Fund Budget Amendment Bill 2026. Number 10, Reserve Bank of Fiji Budget Amendment Bill 2026. Number 11, Exchange Control Budget Amendment Bill 2026. Number 12, Super Yacht Charter Budget Amendment Bill 2026. And 13, Tertiary Scholarships and Loan Services Budget Amendment Bill 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
So, is there a seconder?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable Leader of the House, Mr. Wau. Before we proceed with this motion, I remind honorable members that whilst the speaking time provisions under standing orders are suspended for the business item, all honorable members are further reminded that pursuant to the resolution of Parliament on Friday, the 26th of June 2026, the 13 consequential bills must be debated and voted upon today. I now call on the Honorable Minister for Finance to speak on his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I will be speaking on the 13 consequential bill together. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first is the Tax Administration Budget Amendment Bill 2026, that is Bill number 14. The Tax Administration Budget Amendment Bill seeks to amend the Act to provide for the 2026-2027 budget policy changes. And Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. Passed by Parliament, the amending legislation will come into force on 1st of August 2026, except for Section 6, which comes into force on 1 January 2027. And Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 28 of the Act to allow the Chief Executive Officer, with the written consent of a taxpayer, to sell real property that is subject to a tax charge without obtaining an order of the High Court, therefore facilitating the timely recovery of outstanding tax liabilities and reducing administrative and legal costs. It should also be noted that in relation to the write-off tax debts, FRCS has strengthened its standard operating procedures to provide for additional levels of checks and oversight. In particular, The applicable thresholds and approval processes require further review, including agreements of the FRCS board before the CEO may exercise any discretion. Clause 3 of the bill amends Section 33 of the Act by deleting subsection 6, with the effect that diplomatic missions, international organizations, and international bodies will be subject to the same refund claim requirements as other taxpayers, including the requirement to lodge refund claims within the prescribed 3-year period. And Clause 4 of the bill amends Section 34(1) of the Act to require taxpayers to maintain records that are sufficient to enable the CEO to readily ascertain the taxpayer's tax liability, thereby strengthening record-keeping standards and supporting tax compliance. Clause 5 of the bill amends Section 35 of the Act to provide the CEO and authorized tax officers with additional investigative powers for the purpose of investigating offenses under tax law and facilitating the collection and use of evidence in related proceedings. Clause 6 of the bill amends the Act to insert new Division 5A to implement the Common Reporting Standard and the automatic exchange of financial account information in accordance with Fiji's international obligations under the Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance on Tax Matters and the Multilateral Competent Authority Agreement on automatic exchange of financial account information. Clause 7 of the bill amends the Act to insert the new Division 5B to establish a central register of beneficial owners and to strengthen transparency in legal entities and legal arrangements through the collection and reporting of beneficial ownership information. Clause 8 of the bill amends the Act by introducing penalties for failure to notify the CEO where a capital gains tax certificate has been issued, but the relevant transaction does not proceed, and failure to include all contractor details, including those holding certificates of exemption, in the provisional tax monthly summary. This is in order to strengthen compliance and improve the completeness and accuracy of tax information. Clause 9 of the bill amends Section 54 of the Act to strengthen the protection of tax officers by creating offenses for violent conduct, threats, and attacks against tax officers in the performance of their duties under tax law. And Clause 10 of the bill amends the Act by inserting a new Section 112A to authorize FRCS to collect, administer, and account for fees on behalf of the Tax Agents Board and to provide for the use of those fees in carrying out the board's function. And Clause 11A of the bill amends the Act by inserting a new Section 114A to empower the board to publish the name and business details of a tax agent whose registration or license has been suspended or cancelled. The second bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the Income Tax Budget Amendment Bill. The Income Tax Amendment Bill seeks to amend the Income Tax Act 2025 to provide for the 2026-2027 budget policy changes. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. As I mentioned before, passed by Parliament, amending legislation will come into force on 1 August 2026. Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 25 of the Act to allow for tax incentive for a person who establishes a new sports facility. The tax incentive is to allow the person a 150% tax deduction for establishing the new sports facility. Clause 3 of the bill amends Section 30 of the Act to allow any loss incurred by a company in the aviation sector to be carried forward for a maximum of 15 years. Clause 4 of the bill amends Section 40 of the Act to provide that any inventory or trading stock write-off that exceeds the value of $250,000 requires the CEO's prior approval. Clause 5 of the bill amends Section 67 of the Act to exempt a person who has made a capital gains through equity crowdfunding, small offers, or innovation hub companies from capital gains tax. Clause 6 of the bill amends Section 88 of the Act to empower the CEO to allow for deferral of payment of tax for companies under reorganization where the shareholding requirements under Section 88 are not met, and that is where the minority shares held are not more than 5%. Clause 7 of the bill amends Section 121 of the Act to require a person who provides a monthly provisional tax summary to the FRCS to also include in the summary all contractors engaged, whether or not tax is withheld. Clause 8 of the bill amends Section 180 of the Act to require a person to inform FRCS where a proposed transfer of a person's capital assets for which a capital gains certificate is issued does not occur or is not complete. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the value-added tax budget amendment bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, the value-added tax amendment bill amends the value-added tax 1991 in two important respects. Firstly, the bill applies import VAT on electric vehicles at a rate of 12.5%. This measure is intended to create a level playing field in the taxation of imported vehicles. The amendment promotes consistency with the VAT framework and ensures equitable treatment across vehicle categories. Secondly, the bill introduces a special time of supply rule for the tourism industry. Under this amendment, VAT on accommodation and related tourism supplies will be accounted for at the end of a guest stay or upon checkout, rather than at the earlier point when deposits, advance booking, prepayments, or partial payments are received. This amendment recognizes the practical realities of the hotel industry, where payments are often received well before services are provided. It resolves the tensions between existing VAT timing and commercial practice, improves administrative certainty for tourism operators, and aligns VAT accounting more closely with the actual delivery of taxable supply. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the amendment supports one of Fiji's significant economic sector, which, while maintaining the integrity of the VAT system. Before Mr. Speaker, sir, is the Customs Budget Amendment Bill, which proposes amendment to the Customs Act 1986 to strengthen customs administration, improve compliance, and align Fiji's custom framework with international best practice. The bill enhances the power of FRCS to ensure that goods under customs control can be properly assessed and verified. One of the key amendments allows goods to be tested through arrangement made by FRCS, with the cost of such testing to be borne by the owner of the goods. This provides greater certainty in determining the classification, composition, or value of goods where necessary. The bill also strengthens enforcement by introducing an offense for failing to provide information or document required under customs law. This reinforces the obligation on importers, exporters, and other persons involved in customs transactions to cooperate with customs authority and supports more effective compliance and enforcement activities. In addition, the bill extends the period within which customs duty may be recovered from 1 year to 5 years. This aligns the duty recovery period within the existing custom audit period, allowing the service in sufficient time to identify and recover any unpaid duties resulting from audits or compliance investigations. Another important amendment expands the investigative powers of custom officers by allowing them to question traders and other persons connected with goods that are subject to customs control. This will improve the effectiveness of customs investigation and assist in preventing duty evasion and other customs-related offenses. Finally, the bill updates a number of definitions within the Act to recognize the licensing of cargo agents and yacht agents, while also requiring these licensed agents to comply with the relevant codes of conduct. These amendments support greater professionalism and accountability within the customs industry. Overall, the bill seeks to modernize Fiji's customs regime, improve regulatory certainty, strengthen compliance and enforcement, and bring customs administration into closer alignment with international standards. 5, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Customs Tariff Budget Amendment Bill 2026 amends the Customs Tariff Act 1986 to revise fiscal duty, import excise, and VAT rates on selected goods and motor vehicles, introduce and remove specified tariff items and concessional codes, establish new duty concession for approved investment incentive schemes, and align fiscal duty on certain motorboats. Clause 1 provides for the short title and commencement of the bill. The bill will commence from 26 June 2026 to give effect to the customs and taxation measures announced in the 2026-2027 national budget from the date of the budget announcement. Clause 2 amends Part 1 of Schedule 1 to the Act by expanding the definition of price actually paid or payable to align Fiji's custom valuation framework with the WTO valuation agreement and strengthen the legislative framework governing customs valuation. Clause 3 amends Part 1 of Schedule 2 to the Act by revising tariff classification and applicable fiscal duty, import excise duty, and VAT rates, inserting new tariff items, deleting outdated or non-existent tariff items, and correcting differences in the tariff schedule to give effect to the government's 2026-2027 budget measures. Clause 4 amends Part 2 of Schedule 2 to the Act by expanding the scope of certain duty concession codes, removing concession codes that are no longer required, and introducing a new concession code for eligible PVC boards. Clause 5 amends Part 3 of Schedule 2 to the Act by inserting new duty concession codes for eligible companies undertaking investment projects under prescribed income tax incentive regulations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Excise Bill 2026 amends the Excise Act 1986 to introduce a specific excise duty rate for liqueur products. At present, the Act does not provide a separate duty for liqueurs. As a result, FRCS applies the excise duty rate prescribed for spirits. Therefore, the bill seeks to create a distinct excise category for the applicable excise duty to be applied to liqueurs and to ensure that excise duty is calculated and imposed consistently and accurately. The proposed amendments provide greater certainty for manufacturers, importers, and distributors of alcoholic beverages by clarifying the applicable duty treatment while supporting the service in administering the excise regime more effectively and reduces the potential for disputes over product classification and duty liability. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Fiji Revenue and Service Budget Amendment Bill 2026 amends the Fiji Revenue and Customs Act 1998 to update the secrecy provision so as to allow for the release of documents and information by revenue officers to representatives of taxpayers where there is written consent of the person to whom the documents and information relates, which is necessary for the ordinary operations in the day-to-day work of the revenue officers. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Tourism Services Tax Bill 2026 provides for the imposition of a temporary tax at the rate of 5% on the turnover of any person conducting a business involving the provision of tourism services with an annual gross turnover of over 2 million. The tourism services are prescribed in the schedule to the bill. The tax is borne by the recipient of the prescribed tourism service. Mr. Speaker, sir, the revenue generated will be used to support Fiji Airways, our national carrier, which has been affected by the fuel crisis. Without support provided, there can be an adverse impact on our tourism industry and our economy. A similar tax policy has been used before in Fiji, such as the hotel turnover tax and service turnover tax to generate revenue when required. Providing support to Fiji Airways is to protect our tourism industry and Fiji's economy during these difficult times when the whole world is struggling due to the economic crisis brought about by the war in the Middle East. And Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commandments. If passed by Parliament, the new legislation will come into force on 1 September 2026. Clause 2 of the bill provides for the interpretation and defines key terms used during the bill, throughout the bill. Clause 3 of the bill provides for the levy and payment of a tourism services tax at the rate of 5%. Clause 4 of the bill provides for the person who is responsible for the daily management of a tourism service, that is, the accountable person must pay FRCS the tourism services tax that is collected, and failure to do so is an offense. Clause 5 of the bill provides that from 1 September 2026 to 31 August 2027, the tourism services tax collected will be paid to the company that owns or operates Fiji Airways. Clause 6 of the bill provides that an accountable person from a tourism service must be registered with FRCS. For a business that is already operating, the person responsible for the daily management of the business will be deemed to be the accountable person from 1 August 2026. For new business, an accountable person must be registered with FRCS within 30 days of commencing business. Clause 7 of the bill provides that the Chief Executive Officer of FRCS has the authority to address arrangements that may be designed to reduce, avoid, or interfere with tourism services tax obligations. Clause 8 of the bill provides for the application of Section 102 of the Income Tax Act 2015. And Clause 9 of the bill provides that the Minister may make regulations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Fiji National Provident Fund Budget Amendment Bill 2026 seeks to amend the Fiji National Provident Fund Act 2011 to provide for the 2026-2027 budgetary policy changes. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement, and if passed by Parliament, the amending legislation will come into force on 1 August 2026. Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 37 of the Act to reduce the total mandatory contributions made by an employer for an employee for a month from 2% from 1 August 2026 until 31 July 2027. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Reserve Bank of Fiji Budget Amendment Bill seeks to amend the Reserve Bank of Fiji Act 1983 to strengthen the regulatory and operational framework of the Reserve Bank of Fiji including aligning the accounting treatment of foreign exchange gains and losses with international financing reporting standards and enhancing RBF's supervisory and enforcement powers in line with contemporary regulatory practices. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. If passed by Parliament, the amending legislation is to apply from 1 August 2025. This change is expected to be implemented in the Reserve Bank of Fiji's 2025-2026 financial year from 1 August 2025 and ends on 31st July 2026. Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 7 of the Act to align the treatment of foreign exchange revaluation gains and losses with the IFRS standards by providing a framework for determining the distributable profits and maintaining an unrealized revaluation reserve account for unrealized gains and losses. And Clause 3 of the bill amends Section 8 of the Act to align with amendments made in Section 7 regarding the distribution of net profits by ensuring that the payment of net profits to government is subject to the allocations and applications provided for under Section 7. And Clause 4 of the bill amends the Act by deleting Section 34 to align the treatment of foreign exchange gains and losses with IFRS by removing the requirement for such gains and losses to be credited or debited to a revaluation reserve account. Clause 5 of the bill amends Section 55 of the Act to allow the appointment of external auditors for a term of up to 2 years and to permit their reappointment upon the expiry of the term. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Exchange Control Budget Amendment Bill 2026 seeks to amend the Exchange Control Act 1950 to strengthen the regulatory and operational framework of RBF in relation to exchange control under the Act. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. If passed by Parliament, the amending legislation will come into force on 1 August 2026. Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 2 of the Act by inserting a definition for Minster to mean the Minister responsible for finance and Reserve Bank to mean the Reserve Bank of Fiji. Clause 3 of the bill amends Section 36 of the Act to allow the Reserve Bank of Fiji to impose sanctions on authorized dealers for certain contraventions under the Act or any other written law. Clause 4 of the bill inserts a new Section 45 to identify the grounds for imposing a sanction on any authorized dealer and to specify the sanctions that may be imposed. Mr. Speaker, sir, Super Yacht Charter Budget Amendment Bill makes a targeted amendment to the Super Yacht Charter Act 2010. The amendment clarifies the definition of a recognized super yacht agent to include yacht agents who are already licensed under Section 148 of the Customs Act 1986. This change removes unnecessary duplication in licensing requirements. Currently, yacht agents may be required to obtain recognition under the Super Yacht Charter Act 2010 while also maintaining a license under the customs legislation. The amendment streamlines regulatory processes, supports the efficiency of Fiji's super yacht sector, and maintains appropriate oversight and compliance standards. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Tertiary Scholarships and Loan Service Budget Amendment Bill 2026 seeks to amend Tertiary Scholarships and Loan Services Act 2014 to provide for the 2026-2027 budgetary policy changes to inter alia update outdated definitions remove the need for constant amendment of schedule by repositioning the list of approved schemes and eligible institutions to the Services Scholarships Policies Handbook, and refine the roles, refine the functions, and processes for greater operational efficiency of the service. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. If passed by Parliament, the amending legislation will come into force on 1 August 2026. Clause 2 of the bill amends Section 2 of the Act to redefine at-risk student, eligible institution, schemes, and student. Clause 3 of the bill amends Section 4 of the Act to delete subsection 4 so that the outdated provision in relation to the appointment of board members is removed. Clause 4 of the bill amends Section 5 of the Act to inter alia facilitate the transition of matters dealt with in Schedule 2 to now be prescribed in the Services Scholarship Policies Handbook instead, and to update provisions to reflect the current functions of the service. Clause 5 of the bill amends Section 6A1 of the Act so that the board of the service may now delegate its powers to the service instead of the Chief Executive Officer. Clause 6 of the bill amends Section 7 of the Act to specify that a board member may be reappointed for second term only. Clause 7 of the bill amends Section 10 of the Act to inter alia reduce the quorum required for meetings of the board from 4 members to 3 members. Clause 4 of the bill amends Section 13 of the Act to change the composition of the Appeals Committee. Clause 9 of the bill amends Section 14 of the Act to allow for the appointment of one or more senior officers of the service to act as CEO during periods of vacancy in the position. Clause 10 of the bill amends Section 15(2) of the Act to remove the additional requirement for the approval of the board on a determination by the CEO as to the remuneration, terms, and conditions of employment for employees of the service. Clause 11 and 12 of the bill amends Section 18 and 18B of the Act, respectively, to update the actions that the service can take against students and guarantors and against eligible institutions in case of default of repayment, provision of false or misleading information, or non-compliance with applicable requirements. Clause 13, 14, and 15 of the bill delete Section 26, Schedule 1, and Schedule 2 to the Act, respectively, as the eligible institution and available schemes will now be listed in the Services Scholarships Policies Handbook instead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the Honorable S. Ram Emanuel, the Minister for Finance, for introducing and moving the 13 bills that is now before the House. Honorable members, the floor is now open for debate on the motion. Members are reminded that the speaking time provisions is suspended, but only for this business item. I first recognize the Minister for Lands and Mineral Resources, the Minister Wasarama.
Thank you very
Perhaps you can use the next one, yes, sir, if you may. No, they're still the same. Thank you, right? Do
Perhaps that,
apologize, sir.
perhaps that, Mr. Speaker, is a signal to all of us that we only have a few minutes to 12:30. And so I will take about 2 minutes of the Parliament's time. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the Ministers of Finance motion in the introduction, and he's seeking for the House to accept the 11 consequential bills this morning. Allow me, sir, just to create some light moment. I know it's Friday, and we might all be entitled to a light moment after last night's very intensive passage of the Bible. Sorry, of the passage of the budget. Mr. Speaker, I Googled in the net this morning, and it said that in the medieval and early modern times, there were 3 recognized professions in the world. Number 1 was divinity. Number 2, of course, is medicine, and the 3rd is law. And then the great plagues happened. A lot of faith failed, and medicine, of course, under-delivered. So the recognition changed, Mr. Speaker. So in the later part of modern times, they say that there were only 2 professions in the world: the law and everything else. Note, Mr. Speaker, that I didn't say lawyers, just to make sure that the credit only belongs to a certain few, but law. And we, Mr. Speaker, in the House today are the lawmakers of the country. And I stress this because without these 11 consequential bills, the passage of the budget yesterday would be futile. And so I urge every member of the House to support the consequential bills that have been moved by the Minister for Finance. There goes my 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I stand in support of the bills. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I recognize Honorable Kumar from that side. You have the floor.
Unfortunately, I will not be speaking for 2 hours. I'll be speaking on 4 bills, and these are Bill number 14, 17, 21, and 26. So there goes your disappointment. The opposition supports the need for a modern and effective tax administration system, no doubt about that. Government must be able to collect revenue efficiently, combat tax evasion, and meet Fiji's international obligations. However, every time Parliament gives government or a public authority more power, it also has a duty to make sure that those powers are exercised fairly and that the rights of ordinary taxpayers are protected. That is where we believe this bill requires closer scrutiny. The first concern relates to the sale of the taxpayer's property. Under the current law, a High Court order is required before charged property can be sold. This bill removes that safeguard if the taxpayer gives written consent. At first glance, this may seem reasonable, but we must ask, when someone is already under financial pressure and facing the loss of their property, can we always say that their consent is truly voluntary? Should there not be additional safeguards such as independent legal advice, a cooling off period where one can change his or her mind? This is normally used in consumer protection. Or a clear process to challenge consent if it was obtained under pressure. There are important protections because once a person's property is sold, the consequences are permanent. Mr. Speaker, sir, the second concern is the significant increase in the investigative powers given to tax officers. The bill allows tax officers to enter premises, conduct searches, seize documents, take photographs and recordings, and compel people to answer questions. The opposition is not saying FRCS should not investigate tax offenses. It should, and it must. But these powers are very broad and should be balanced with proper safeguards. For example, should a search of private property require a warrant or a written approval of the CEO instead of relying only on the opinion of the investigating officer? If someone is compelled to answer questions during an investigation, should they not also have the right to seek legal advice? These safeguards protect honest citizens just as much as they help ensure investigations are conducted fairly. Mr. Speaker, sir, another concern is the record-keeping requirement. The bill says taxpayers must keep records that are sufficient for the CEO of FRCS to readily determine the tax liability. The problem is that the law never explains what sufficient actually means. One tax officer may consider certain documents acceptable, while another may disagree. This creates uncertainty for businesses and taxpayers. Instead of leaving these important standards open to interpretation, the law should clearly specify what records are required to allow regulations to define those standards. Mr. Speaker, said the bill also introduces new penalties and compliance requirements, particularly in relation to international information sharing and beneficial ownership. Fiji must comply with international standards, and we must support that objective. But if you look at the penalties, these penalties are not fair. I mean, the penalties should be fair and proportionate. For example, a small family business should not automatically face the same penalties as a large corporation, where the scale and impact of the breach are completely different. Likewise, there should be a clear distinction between deliberate tax fraud and an honest administrative mistake. The purpose of penalties should be to encourage compliance, not to punish unfairly. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are also some drafting issues that Parliament should not ignore. One provision, 37L2, dealing with calculation of interest, is so poorly worded that it is unclear how the interest should actually be calculated. 37.3 states the interest rate is 10% per annum, but it does not say whether it's compound interest rate or simple interest rate. This may sound like a minor drafting error, but it's not. If the law is unclear, the taxpayers may not know how much they owe. FRCS may interpret the law differently and disputes may end up before the courts, and not everyone can afford a lawyer. Our law must be clear, precise, and capable of being understood by everyone. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill also establishes a central register containing beneficial ownership information. This register will hold sensitive personal information. The legislation should therefore clearly state who can access the information, how it will be protected, and what safeguards exist to prevent misuse or unauthorized disclosure. Public confidence depends on knowing that personal information is secure. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must build a tax system based on fairness, transparency, and public confidence, rather than giving broad powers without enough accountability. Mr. Speaker, sir, these are, in my view, these are not technical matters that can be dismissed as drafting issues. In tax law, a single unclear provision can determine whether a citizen pays a penalty, loses a property, or faces prosecution. That is why Parliament must get this legislation right. So based on that reasoning, we cannot support this bill number 14, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now let me move on to the bill number 17 of 2026, which is on the customs amendment bill. We support the objectives of strengthening Fiji's customs system. Let me acknowledge the positive aspects of the bill. The introduction of a licensing framework for cargo agents is sensible. The creation of a separate license for yacht agents reflects the growth of Fiji's marine tourism industry. Making it an offense to deliberately refuse to produce customs documents strengthens compliance. Clarifying that existing freight forwarders do not require additional license also removes unnecessary duplication. These are constructive reforms, and we support these reforms. And as I said earlier on, our responsibility in Parliament is to ensure that laws are effective, but also fair, proportionate, and practical. Unfortunately, this bill in its current form fails that test. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first concern is the penalty for operating without a cargo agent's license. The opposition agrees that cargo agents should be licensed. They play an important role in handling imports, exports, and custom documentations. Proper licensing protects businesses, consumers, and government revenue. But what we cannot support is the punishment proposed in this bill. The bill allows for a maximum penalty of 10 years imprisonment or a fine of 25,000 simply for operating without a license. Mr. Speaker, sir, 10 years imprisonment is a punishment, I know it's maximum, normally reserved for very serious criminal offenses. Can the government honestly explain why a licensing offense deserves the same maximum sentence as some of the most serious offenses under our criminal laws? We have not seen any justification for such an excessive penalty. The punishment simply does not fit the offense. Mr. Speaker, sir, our second concern is the transition period. The bill comes into force on 1st August 2026, yet existing cargo agents have only 1 month to become licensed. Let's think about that in practice. These businesses must prepare applications, gather supporting documents, satisfy fit and proper person requirements, pay the required fees, and then wait for FRCS to process those applications. We believe businesses should be given sufficient time to comply with the new law, and those who face administrative delays beyond their control should be given more time. And it would be nice if that assurance can come from the minister concerned. Mr. Speaker, sir, the third concern relates to the new questioning powers given to the custom officers. The opposition accepts that the custom officers need powers to question people during investigations. But those powers must come with safeguards. The bill gives customs officers the authority to question people without providing important protections such as the right to legal advice, the right against self-incrimination, or clear procedures on how questioning should be conducted. These safeguards protect innocent people from unfair treatment and ensure that investigations are carried out properly. Mr. Speaker, sir, fourth concern is the new power allowing FRCS to order independent testing of imported goods. Again, we do not accept that testing is, we agree that testing is sometimes necessary and not all the time. Sometimes when you are in doubt, it is required. However, there is no clear threshold before testing can be ordered. There is no limit on the cost that may be passed on to the importer. They can just send this test to any lab they like, and it will be footed by the business people. There is no time frame within which testing must be completed. So if the testing is not completed on time, that means the container load of things are sitting somewhere and probably getting expired. We heard that from Honorable Elvick last night. No, it's our job to highlight all these issues. Whether you take it or not, that's your problem. But as an opposition, we are speaking on the bill, highlighting the issues. Okay, I think you're all done with that, right? So now I can speak. Okay, so look, I have worked in consumer protection. I have also advocated for testing of products, which is very important. But I'm saying that you've got to have some safeguards there, that's all. I'm not saying don't get the testing done. No, get it done. But we got to have some safeguards so that the officers understand the timeliness of those process. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying take away the testing. No, we shouldn't. And there is no provision for compensation if the testing proves the importer was right all along. Imagine a business importing fresh food, as I said, or medical supplies. If those goods are held for weeks while testing is carried out, and we have heard over the week, some of these testings are not done locally. It is sent abroad. And particularly with food testing, you have to send it to these certified labs abroad. And it's not cheap. I recall when I was with Consumer Council, we got about 20, 30 food products. We had to send it to Malaysia for testing. And that came at a huge bill. And thank God we didn't have the money to pay for it, but another consumer organization outside Fiji picked up the bill. So we have to think along those lines as well, Mr. Speaker, sir. Only thing I'm saying is that the law should strike a fair balance between enforcement and commercial reality. Mr. Speaker, sir, we believe the bill can be improved. The government should reduce the excessive penalty for licensing offenses. It should provide a realistic transition period for existing businesses. It should strengthen the safeguards around questioning powers, and it should introduce clear limits and accountability for testing costs. These are reasonable amendments. They do not weaken customs enforcement. In fact, they strengthen confidence in the law. Mr. Speaker, sir, regulators should be given powers, but those powers must be balanced with accountability. Again, for these reasons, we cannot support this bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, I know. Oh, absolutely. I'm not asking for your support. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I will now move on to Bill number 21, which is on Tourism Services Tax Bill 2026. We recognize that Fiji Airways is a national asset, carrying around 80% of our international visitors. Its success is vital to tourism, employment, and wider economy. And in fact, Fiji Airways is our pride. The opposition therefore accepts that government must need to support the national carrier. Okay, now let's look at what is the problem with the law. The issue before Parliament is not whether Fiji Airways deserves support, but whether this bill provides a fair, transparent, and accountable way in providing that support. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, my first concern is that this bill places the financial burden almost entirely on one sector of the economy. Tourism has only recently recovered from the devastating effects of COVID-19. Many businesses during that time, they took loans to renovate the properties around Fiji, and some of them are still servicing loans which they took during pandemic, and they're still trying to rebuild their cash reserves and trying to remain competitive in an increasingly challenging global tourist market. Yet this bill imposes tax based on a gross turnover, not profit. That means a business can still be making a loss, but will nevertheless have to pay this tax, because the tax is based on gross turnover rather than profit. Businesses making little or no profit will still pay exactly the same tax as profitable businesses, and that is fundamentally unfair. Even the Permanent Secretary for Finance has acknowledged that a turnover tax is not the best way to design a tax. If government itself accepts that, then Parliament must ask why a fairer alternative was not considered. Mr. Speaker, sir, another major concern is existing contracts hotels have entered into. We know hotels, resorts, and tour operators sell holiday packages many months ahead and sometimes years in advance. Prices are agreed, deposits are paid, and contracts are signed. These contracts cannot simply be changed just because the government introduces a new tax. Businesses cannot suddenly tell overseas visitors that they must now pay more because Parliament has changed the law. Doing so would breach legally binding agreements and damage Fiji's reputation as a reliable tourism destination. As a result, businesses are left with only two choices. Either they break their contract with the customers, or they absorb the additional tax themselves. In reality, most businesses will have no choice but to absorb the cost. Another serious concern is the accountability. Instead of tax being paid into the consolidated fund, I mean, I found it very strange the way this was announced by the Minister of Finance, that we will collect this money and it will go to Fiji Airways. I mean, I would have preferred to hear that Fiji Airways will be assisted with $70 million of money. That's it. And then you can separately announce that we are now introducing a new tax called tourism tax, full stop. But the point that you linked directly with Fiji Airways raises a number of concerns. The first concern is you're asking the hotel industry and other operators to pay 5%, and Fiji Airways themselves are operating a hotel. They're in direct competition with hoteliers. So why should this hotel industry be bailing out Fiji Airways? And why should it be just one sector? That's my concern. And the second point is, my solution was you introduce tax across the board for everyone else to pay for it, not just one sector. The precedent you have set is this. Next time, if FSC needs money, you will say, okay, another sector will now pay this much to pay directly to sugar industry. This is the precedent you have set. This is the precedent you have set. Because we don't have a system like this. Nowhere, never. But you are simply saying that this money will be collected and paid directly to Fiji Airways. So there is nothing that shows. But we would like to know why Fiji Airways they are into businesses which is not the core business. I mean, Fiji Airways is supposed to be flying, but they've gone into other businesses. Have they tried to sell off some of the, shares? Or have they tried to consolidate their operations? Because we know, Mr. Speaker, I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, no, I will only look at you, Mr. Speaker.
You're supposed to address me.
Yeah. So, Fiji Airways must demonstrate they have looked at the operational cost, they have reduced the operational cost. We all know, seated here, that they have the board members. The board members and their families are jetting here and there at reduced rate. But how are you reducing all that cost? We would like to know how are they reducing those costs if they are in financial situation, terrible situation. They must demonstrate that they have become a lot more responsible and therefore they need to be assisted. Mr. Speaker, sir, another issue is the consultation. Government claims the tourism industry broadly supports this tax. Yet the Fiji Hotel Association, Tourism Association, has publicly stated that it neither proposed nor endorsed it. If the industry's principal representative disagrees, government should explain how it concluded that there was broad support. So the government lied here. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill describes this as a temporary measure, yet it contains no sunset clause ending the tax itself. While payments to Fiji Airways are limited to 12 months, the legal authority to continue collecting the tax remains. If this is genuinely temporary, the legislation should make that absolutely clear. Mr. Speaker, sir, the opposition is not saying Fiji Airways should not be left to struggle, far from it. And the earlier point that I made, that why should hotels be supporting Fiji Airways, because Fiji Airways is in direct competition with hotels. But let me also highlight, most of these hotels are owned by FNPF. So who is actually involved here? It's us, all those individuals who have got accounts with FNPF. We are the ones, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I said earlier on, Fiji Airways is our national asset. Its success matters to every Fijian. but so does the success of the hotels, resorts, restaurants, tour operators, transport providers, and thousands of workers who keep our tourism industry alive. So the responsibility of supporting our national airlines should be shared, fairly, managed transparently, and approved with full parliamentary accountability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. So that, now I'll come to the last presentation, and I will be speaking on Bill number 26, which is on tertiary scholarships and loan services. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, the bill has got a number of positive reforms, and I would like to acknowledge those positive reforms. The first one is the introduction of term limits for board members. It is a good governance measure. It prevents the same people from remaining on the board indefinitely. Requiring every board member present to vote on decisions is also a positive step because it makes members accountable for the decisions they make. Clarifying arrangements for an acting chief executive officer and strengthening action against people who deliberately provide false information are also good improvements. And opposition supports these changes. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, these positive amendments do not change the fundamental concerns of this bill. Its central objective is to transfer important powers away from Parliament and weaken independent oversight while concentrating greater authority in the hands of Minister and the TSLS. Mr. Speaker, sir, the most significant amendment is the removal of the schedules from the Act. Currently, Parliament determines which institutions qualify for TSLS funding and which scholarship schemes exist because it comes to the Parliament and we normally have a debate. If government wishes to amend those lists, as I said, it comes to the Parliament and we do those changes collectively. Mr. Speaker, sir, now what's going to happen is these schedules will be now, it will go into the handbook. Now, once in the handbook, they cannot be changed without parliamentary approval because it's in the handbook. They can change whenever they like. So what can they change? They can change a scholarship scheme. You know, any scholarship scheme can be removed. Eligibility rules can be changed. An institution can be added or removed. All of this can happen without Parliament ever debating those changes. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government says this will make administration more efficient because Parliament will no longer have to amend the schedules. But I ask this House, is parliamentary oversight a problem? And since when has parliamentary oversight become an inconvenience? Parliament exists precisely to oversee how taxpayers' money is allocated. Efficiency should never come at the expense of accountability. Mr. Speaker, sir, perhaps the most worrying amendment is the change to the Appeals Committee. And I wish the Minister will be able to respond on this. At present, the Solicitor General plays an important role in that committee, providing legal independence. The bill removes the Solicitor General and instead allows the TSLS itself to determine who sits on the Appeals Committee. Think about that. What does that mean? If a student is unhappy with a TSLS decision and lodges an appeal, that appeal will be heard by people selected by the very organization whose decision is being challenged. Mr. Speaker, sir, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to be done. An appeals process must be independent if the public is to have confidence in it. The bill also changes who can exercise delegated powers. Instead of delegating powers to the Chief Executive Officer, powers can now be delegated to the service. The Chief Executive Officer is a clearly identifiable person who can be held accountable. The service is much broader. It becomes difficult to know exactly who made a particular decision and who should answer for it. Where is clear lines of responsibility? And this bill weakens those lines. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill also removes an important safeguard over staffing decisions. Currently, the board approves employment conditions determined by the CEO. This amendment removes that board oversight. That means one individual, that is the CEO, can determine salaries and employment conditions without the board's approval. Another concern is the enormous discretion given to the minister. Under this bill, an institution becomes eligible simply because the minister approves it and it is placed in the handbook. But nowhere does the bill explain the criteria the minister must use. There is no requirement to give reasons if an institution is rejected. There is no time limit for making a decision. There is no appeal process. Imagine a nursing college or a teacher training institution or a private tertiary provider being refused approval. How will they know why? How do they challenge the decision? Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill also allows TSLS to suspend funding to an institution that it believes has failed to comply with its requirements. Now, no one disputes that institutions should comply with the law. However, before funding is suspended, procedural fairness must exist. And we would like to see that safeguard in the bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, again, we see Parliament giving away its oversight role. More authority is being transferred to minister and government agencies, while independent checks and balances are steadily reduced. That should concern every member of this House because it alters the constitutional balance between the Parliament and the executive. The opposition supports modernizing TSLS. We support making administration more efficient, but efficiency must never replace accountability. Parliament should continue to determine the major policies governing scholarships because this involves around $160 million of public funds and, more importantly, the future of our young people. While we support the positive administrative reforms, which I mentioned earlier on, contained in this bill, but the opposition cannot support the concentration of power and reduction in parliamentary oversight that this bill creates in its present form. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank the Honorable Pramila Kumar. I will now call on the Assistant Minister, Prime Minister's Office, the Honorable Sekiusa Tumbuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise in support of the consequential amendment bills which is presented before this House. These bills are more than just legislative amendments. They are the legal instruments that give a practical effect to the 2026-2027 national budget. They ensure that the policy announcements made by government are supported by the appropriate legislative framework so that businesses, investors, the workers, and ordinary Fijians can benefit from the measures contained in this budget. Speaker, sir, during the budget debate this week, there's been considerable discussion about the government's economic outlook. We have heard from the members of the opposition, the doomsayers, particularly from Honorable Vijay Nair, Honorable Renesh Sharma, who continue to paint a very bleak picture about the economy. I wish to draw your attention, Mr. Speaker, sir, to the interesting development reported in today's Fiji Times, the headline in the Fiji Times. ANZ Senior Pacific Economist, Dr. Kristi Sen has projected that Fiji economy will grow by 2.7% in 2026. This is quite significant, and it's higher than the government's own 1.5%, worst case projection that underpins this budget. This is will be driven mostly by the increasing visitor arrivals, increasing performance of the agriculture sector, and of course increase the remittance. So the honourable opposition members from the other side, I wish not to emphasize all the commentaries on the economy that you've been portraying this week are all false, because this is an expert, this is an international expert who is portraying the economy will grow and all the people of this country should have faith in this government, because this is the government that will not deliver to the people of this country. Honorable Speaker, that is an important point. It demonstrates that the government has deliberately chosen to prepare a prudent and responsible budget rather than an overly optimistic one. Instead of overinflating revenue expectation or making promises based on the best case scenario, this government has budgeted conservatively. That is exactly how responsible this government is. And of course, one of the things that I would like to share is investor confidence in this country. We've heard from investment in Fiji, pipeline, 8 billion. We were in Rakiraki last week. I'm talking about the consequential amendments and how that will impact on the people of this country. How the people are being motivated not to invest more, not to invest more. Of course, the leader of opposition, I wish not to tell you that cowpea will be the crop that will project Fiji.
Point of order. Point of order.
Relevance, we are actually talking about the consequential bills, not about what we read in newspapers, not about what other people have said. Consequential bills. That is what the debate is on. Thank you.
Yes, I somewhat share the views in here. Can you please, Honorable Assistant Minister, continue with speaking on the consequential, the 13 consequential bills that is before the House? You may, in fact, refer to, if, for example, in the newspapers, if it, in fact, is relevant to one of the issues, one of the bills in there. But come back to the bill, if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The consequential bills and all of the amendments that have been made have an effect on how the economy will be operating in the next year also, Mr. Speaker, sir. Many of our rural and maritime communities, whom most of them that I serve are quite very confident of the changes that are being made in terms of the legislation that this government is carrying forward. And of course, the legislative amendments enable the government to implement those commitments efficiently and transparently. Mr. Speaker, sir, the consequential bills are therefore not merely technical amendments. They are an essential component of government's broader strategy to strengthen economic resilience, investment, and create employment and improve the lives of all Fijians in this country. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, sir, I fully support the consequential bills before the House and commend them to Parliament.
Thank you. I'll move on to there are no contribution from the other side. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, sir. I'll be just very brief. The other side of the House, government has heard from the opposition. We approve the consequential bills, but with some reservations, as alluded to by the members from the opposition who have spoken. We are here to ensure that whatever bills that we come up with, and of course the policies as well, are the best and delivers the expectations according to the intentions of government as per the budget that has been passed yesterday. I just want to talk specifically on Bill number 16. I find this as very, I can say disappointing, particularly the intention to remove the VAT concession for electric vehicles and restore it to 12.5%. It contradicts our intentions, particularly when we want to transition to clean energy, and of course in the transportation sector as well. Honorable Speaker, sir, as you are well aware, uh, in terms of our mitigation and NDC implementation, we all want to transition into clean energy, and we want to get rid of fossil fuel vehicles. But unfortunately, this is in contradiction with our international commitments and the plans that we have here in Fiji. And I hope that government can reconsider this, Honorable Speaker, sir. As you go around Suva, most of the, I heard the Honorable Minister saying that he wants to have a fair, what's the word that he used, across the board. But then, Honorable Speaker, sir, you see the private sector is already moving into this transition. Most of the vehicle dealers are already bringing in electric vehicles, and that we applaud. And even some of us have gone into that as well, purchasing EVs, electric vehicles. But for the removal of the VAT consensus and bringing it back to the 12.5%, as the Honorable Minister stated in his budget address, VAT on personally imported electric vehicles will be reinstated at 12.5%. I for one, do not or disagree with this, and I hope that this bill can be considered, reconsidered by government, because Parliament is the bridge between our international commitments and our local implementation. And for us to be doing the contrary, despite our international commitments, is perhaps something that will not reflect well on us as members of this August House, Honorable Speaker, sir. And that's one thing that I wanted to point out. But we approve the consequential bills in principle, but there are some reservations, as already alluded to by members of this side of the House, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank the Honourable Leader of the. I'll give the floor to the Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I just want to thank all members for their contribution to the budget debate. I was not worried about the vote. I couldn't take it for granted, but I was not worried. It was my 12th budget. I lost one. And I thank all members. I was also very encouraged by the quality of the debate. And I was encouraged by the contribution of the honorable members of the opposition. And I saw during the debate, many of them qualified to be cabinet ministers in any government. And I wish them well in the upcoming elections. Speaker, sir, as the Honourable Minister has referred to, these are consequential bills. They are bills to enable the government to fund and effectively execute the budget that we have voted for. And although the honourable members of the opposition have voiced concerns and reservations about some of the bills and some of the aspects of the budget itself, as the minister had said, while moving the appropriation bill, it is necessary for the time being to be prudent about our spending, but also make sure we form the basis or the foundation for a sustainable future and more prosperous future. We'll have to bear the pains of the injections in the operations now, but we're looking forward to the healing and new strength when that is when the operation is properly healed. And this is like an operation. I thank all members for their participation in the debate, and I commend the consequential bills to the House, Mr. Speaker. Sir.
Thank you, the Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Rusamante.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, honourable members, for their contribution to the debate, and I thank you for the words also for the Prime Minister about the nature of these bills. These are consequential to the budget, and they are designed to be able to allow the implementation and the execution of the budget. But we also thank the opportunity to be able to talk on these bills and frankly share our thoughts, which we think at the end you do have the numbers, you will be pass all the consequential bills, but this debate gives us an opportunity to also to share our thoughts on those bills, since that is what this here House is for. Bill number 14, sir, on the Tax Administration Budget Amendment Bill. I think overall it's a very good bill. The role of the FRCS is something that is critically important for our country. It's the revenue collector, and this bill obviously sets out to strengthen tax administration, strengthen tax compliance. There are two things in this bill that I have overall. The bill in itself is supported, but these two elements, some of which has been highlighted by Honorable Premila Kumar. One of the things that in this bill does is that it expands the investigative powers and information gathering powers of FRCS. That is a very important thing for FRCS to be able to do that. It has to investigate, it has to have those information gathering powers, and it must do that. If there's any concerns on our part, looking at the rights of citizens, as these investigative powers are expanded, we want to be able to make sure that in the execution of this, is the expansion of these investigative powers sufficiently balanced with taxpayer rights and the rights for the protection of themselves. So it's very important in the execution of this, as the regulations are developed, that balance is brought in. Yes, FRCS must have those powers, but at the same time, the rights of taxpayers, there must be additional safeguards protecting also the confidentiality of taxpayer information when all that is done. So we agree with the idea that FRCS has to be strengthened, but our concern is also that the rights of the taxpayers in that process must be protected. That is one of the issues that I have about this particular bill. It also focuses on, the bill itself also focuses on modernizing several administrative processes and the review procedures. If there's something that we'll have a question on this, will all of this lead to more implementation compliance costs that smaller business might have to deal with? And if so, that needs to be made apparent to them. It's something that needs to be put into place. Will the implementation increase compliance costs for financial institutions? That's a key question that needs to be answered. If it is there, it's something that needs to be raised with them so that they fully understand it. And if there are additional costs, if they need to be made known through implementation guidelines, through awareness, to the various bodies that would be expected to deal with this. Mr. Speaker, sir, the second bill that I talked briefly on just one aspect of the bill, is Bill number 15, which also is looking at the amendment to the Income Tax Act of 2015. There are a number of key measures there. One that I want to speak on is because I appreciated this particular measure quite a lot, is the introduction of the 150% tax deduction for approved expenditure on sports facilities. And we know the importance of sports in our country. Sports is very important for physical well-being, for wellness and so forth, and also for big business. It's a way in which a lot of investment has come into this country. So overall, on my part, looking at this particular bill, that is something I particularly support. The tax conditions, the 150% that is given on that particular component, sir. The third one, very briefly, Bill 16 on the value-added tax budget amendment bill for 2026. It introduces a VAT exemption for different sorts of things. There are two things that I'd like to talk about. First is for the drug rehabilitation centers. As we all know, drugs is a huge crisis in our country. This particular bill deals with something at the end, when somebody's gone through the process of having been impacted negatively by drugs. We need to have more drug rehabilitation facilities in Fiji, and this is obviously something that is going to help us in that area. And that is something I fully support. But I share also the concerns expressed by the leader of the opposition on the removal of the concessions for electrical vehicles. As the LOP has said, the quintessential challenge of our time is climate. That is the big challenge that faces us in small island countries all over the world. And it is, we need to be able to do our bit to get to carbon zero and all of those targets that we have. So then to remove incentives that help people to move towards those emission reduction targets does not make sense in the bigger scale of things. Climate change is the bigger scale. Climate change and greenhouse gas emission and all the things that come with it, this is the major challenge for life itself for us in this country. So this particular, removing this might fall into compliance with other laws that we have around FRCS. But in the big picture of things, climate change is the issue. It is the issue. We have fought all over the world about oceans, about greenhouse gas emission, climate change. We need to be able to show that there's compatibility and coherence with what we say around the world and what we do internally. I understand that there are some administrative requirements, but it doesn't make sense to me when you look at what the big problems in the world are and what we stand up for and what we do internally. That does not make sense to me, sir. So the next one that I talked briefly about, Mr. Speaker, sir, is of these bills. Where is it? Yeah, there's Bill 20, the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service Budget Amendment Bill, where one of the things in this bill is that it permits FRCS to disclose taxpayer information where the taxpayer has provided a written consent or disclosure is authorized by regulation. I see, as I read through this, why this will lead to administrative efficiency. It will facilitate legitimate information sharing and so forth. I agree with that. If the concern that I would have, it is the protection of taxpayer confidentiality. The importance of making sure that this is maintained. Taxpayer information is amongst the most sensitive information held by government. The information that government holds on its taxpayers. It's very, very sensitive information. And as Parliament, we should ensure that the amendment does not weaken public confidence in the confidentiality of taxpayer records. So it's a question from us, are we making sure, government must make sure that there are safeguards sufficiently in place to prevent the misuse or unauthorized disclosure of this taxpayer information. I'm glad to see that there are written consent requirements there, and I hope that that will be done. It will be managed in such a way that it will be sufficient to maintain that confidentiality. There are also aspects in this about cybersecurity and data protection. When that comes up, I think for all of us, we always get a bit worried. At the end of the day, it's important for us, as leaders in this country, as legislators, that the public continue to have confidence in our tax system, and that because our tax system depends on voluntary compliance. So taxpayers must have confidence that confidential and financial information will only be disclosed where absolutely necessary and in accordance with the law, Mr. Speaker, sir. The last one that I'll speak to is the Bill 26 on tertiary scholarships and loan service. And I think the Honorable Pamela has talked about this bill. She's talked about some very pertinent governance issues that I hope that the government is listening to, the points that is highlighted about what might seem to be the removal of parliamentary oversight on some of the functions relating to this particular bill. These are important things. I see the Attorney General shaking his head, but please listen to the comments that have been made here. Think about it as you will have the power to implement it. Your role is to listen to the loyal opposition of this country, giving its loyal commentary for the benefit of our country. You may laugh and you may tell me to sit down, but you will hear my words. This is your loyal opposition, doing this work for the people of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I was looking through this, one of the things that I've highlighted in this debate is my feeling of I'm feeling very good towards my good friend, the Honorable Tiswal. My feeling that there's a mismatch between what we're doing in terms of the money that we're throwing into education and training and what we're getting out of it. There is a mismatch there, but it's not, and I don't really know what the solution is. It's not like a dark gloom that hangs all over me when I think about it. So as we move down this path, I think, aligning scholarships with national workforce needs and the way that we manage it. What's happening right now with the changes that have come in, as was pointed out, the pass rates in exams are going up. People are getting more and more marks. More and more people are getting scholarships. So what do the institutions do? They start going around just hunting for people to take up these opportunities. So there's a danger there that we're giving money and it's not leading to the kind of outcomes and outputs that will meet the needs of our industry. This is very critical. So as we do all of these changes, that, Mr. Speaker, sir, is very critical. And I think we've taken the time to be able to share our thoughts. Our votes are not going to count. Our votes in this particular passage of the consequential bill is not going to count. But what counts is our words and our thoughts, that you think about them and that you take it into account. Because if you make the wrong decisions in your execution, you must stand and bear responsibility for that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the Honorable Tony Musumati for his contribution. I call next on the Minister for Education, the Honorable Asir Rendono.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'd just like to make a small contribution in terms of the bill number 26 of 2026. Support the motion before the House, but I want to specifically talk on the Bill 26, which is the Tertiary Scholarship and Loans Act 2014 amendments. Mr. Speaker, considering the comments that has been coming from the other side of the House, I think what they failed to mention is that the realization that the changes that we are now putting through was the failure that they did not act in time to address the concerns that they are now raising. They were sitting on this side of the House at one time. They could not voice their opinion. They could not raise their concerns in time. Every time we were speaking from that side, highlighting what needed to be done, but they could not have enough influence to make the amendments as we are doing it now. But Mr. Speaker, sir, these amendments are both timely and necessary to strengthen the administration of the TSLS, improving its enforcement mechanism and enhance accountability in terms of the students that they sponsor and also the stakeholders of the universities, of the higher education institutes. And they will help ensure that the schemes, that the TSLS schemes remain sustainable, transparent and effective in delivering educational opportunities for the benefit of current and future students. The amendments that are relating to definitions of at-risk students, eligible institutions, students and scheme have been revised to ensure greater precision and alignment with the service's operational objective. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, this amendment is needed because it gives responsibility also to the institutions to identify at-risk students as compared to what is there previously, where the TSLS has taken on all the responsibilities in terms of identification of at-risk students and sometimes create unnecessary volumes in terms of students, a number that comes through. So this is timely because it allows the institutions to identify at-risk students and work with TSLS in terms of student care. Mr. Speaker, sir, the amendments have also been made to the composition of the appeals committee to ensure it remains effective, impartial, and responsive in discharging its responsibilities. Further amendments to strengthen the enforcement provisions available to the service by updating the actions that may be taken against students, guarantors, and eligible institutions in instances of loan repayment default. The provision of false or misleading information or non-compliance with legislative and policy requirements. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to inform this August House that Schedule 1 and 2 have been removed, as been alluded to earlier. These schedules, which previously listed eligible institutions and available schemes, will now be incorporated into the TSLS Scholarship and Policies Handbook. This approach provides greater flexibility to update approved institutions and scholarship schemes as required, while ensuring the handbook accurately reflects the service's current functions and operations. These amendments are intended to strengthen legislative clarity, improve administrative efficiency and consistency, and ensure greater alignment between the Act, policies, and the service's operational practices. Collectively, they will support the effective governance and administration of the tertiary education funding framework and enhance the service's ability to meet the needs of students and stakeholders. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I once again support the motion before the House.
Thank you. I thank Minister for Education, the Honorable Sylvie Rendondo. Finally, I will ask the Honorable Professor Biman Prasad through the debates on this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I'll try and be very brief. I just wanted to begin by saying that I was listening very carefully to my good honorable friend, the Minister for Lands, when he was talking about the historical professions, and I quickly did a ChatGPT AI, and it says that today's most wanted professions are teachers and healthcare workers. So lawyers are not the favor of the day. Mr. Speaker, just very quickly on bill number 14, the tax administration bill. This has always been part of consequential bills, and over a period of time, there's always identification of loopholes, experiences, strategies to strengthen tax compliance. And what we have done in the last 3 years, as is reflected in the level of revenue, a lot of it has come through proper compliance. And this amendment, I think, is designed to further strengthen tax compliance, enhance revenue for government. So I do appreciate the points that were raised by Honorable Kumar, but I think the implementation of these laws can be carefully done, and that itself is going to provide a safeguard in the way in which the FRCS and those responsible for implementing those laws would take care of that. Bill number 16, and I heard both Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, and Honorable Usumate talking about the removal or the imposition of import tax on electric vehicles. But as they will see that there are other exemptions of VAT on the importation of capital goods for the establishment of drug rehabilitation centers, etc. So there is always, Mr. Speaker, say a choice that government makes, the Ministry of Finance makes in terms of looking at how at a particular point in time we can raise additional revenue, we can exempt revenue from certain areas. Just to allay the fears of both the Honourable Leader of the Opposition and Honourable Usumate, yes, incentives for climate change mitigation, greenhouse gas mitigation is important. In fact, there's been a lot of other incentives that are already in place for residential solar plans, etc. So we are not sort of deviating from our international commitments in that area, just because, you know, we have this year put a
import tax on electrical vehicles. The bill number 21, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honorable Kumar made some very important points, but I just wanted to remind her and the opposition, there is a thing called earmarking of revenue. And this is not something new, Mr. Speaker said. It's always been done. You can talk about environmental levy that we used to have before. You can talk about health levy. You can talk about fuel levy, for example, for road maintenance, etc. So these are earmarking revenue measures for a particular purpose. And what it does, Mr. Speaker, say it builds trust, it brings about transparency, accountability, and those who actually bear the burden of that particular levy or tax understand very clearly where it is supposed to go. And let me say, I don't think this should be of serious concern to the tourism operators. In fact, post-pandemic, in 2022, with a very strong recovery in tourism and continued growth in the tourism numbers, the tourism industry has done very well. And I also want to remind the tourism sector and those, and I think many of them understand, government has constantly, before and in the last 3 years, injected funds to support tourism marketing. Fiji Airways does its own marketing, and it helps the industry in getting as many tourists to Fiji as possible. So I think this is a temporary tax measure that is designed to help Fiji Airways. That in turn is going to help bring more tourists into the country, and the numbers are showing that it hasn't been affected in any way. In fact, compared to last year, the growth is still there. So I don't think there should be any serious concern about this particular bill and this particular tax that tourism operators and those providing these tourism services will have to pay, because the revenue is clearly marked for supporting Fiji Airways, which is a very important aspect of why this is being done. Just on the Treasury Scholarships and Loans Service Act, I just wanted to make a very brief comment and support the strategy to ensure that we identify at-risk students. And this happens, Mr. Speaker, say at every level, and should happen at every level, whether they are in class 1, whether they are in Form 4, Form 6, or Form 7, teachers, school principals, administrators, and in universities, we always used to identify in a class of students those that might be at risk and might fall on the wayside and not be able to pass, and therefore there is always some intervention that could be put in place if you identify at-risk students. What happened, and we've talked about this in Parliament, in fact, in the previous loan scheme, $160 million worth of loans to students was almost non-existent. In fact, there was hardly any record. So what happened, students took loan, they went to the universities, they went to institutions. There was no requirement for tertiary institutions to report to TSLS, and government basically lost $160 million, and that $160 million, Mr. Speaker, say, added to the $650 million debt that we piled up, and what we were getting was, as I said previously, $7 to $8 million a year, and sometimes less than that. So if you go by that total loan, you'd probably require 80 years to get to collect that $650 million, and within that period, you're going to build that more. So what has happened is the replacement or writing off that $650 million debt and replacing it with a scholarship, and making sure that we identify and we follow up and we take a very interventionist approach in making sure that the students actually complete the program. It's better value for money, and it helps build human resource capacity in our country. So I think the decision that the government took to write off the loan, to replace it with a scholarship, and to make sure that, in fact, even with the scholarship, Mr. Speaker said, there are quite a number of students who would be at risk, who would go take the scholarship, who would not complete, who would remain in the country, who would save their bond by remaining in the country, not pay a single cent, and yet the government would have wasted that amount of money by giving scholarships to students who do not complete the program at the end. So in that respect, I think this is a very important amendment and important strategy by TSLS to ensure that the students who are given scholarships are followed through and that they are able to complete the programs. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, all this, and as the Prime Minister quite rightly pointed out, that these consequential bills are to give effect to the measures that are in the budget, and it is all designed to ensure that we collect the right amount of revenue, we put in the right amount of administration effort in making sure that whatever we've announced in the budget actually takes effect. And to conclude, Mr. Speaker, I want to support what Honorable Tumbuna said. All this is designed, and in fact, the 1.5% growth forecast for this year, in my view, was a very conservative forecast. The IMF said 2.8, ANZ is saying 2.7. I'm saying that we might end up, we are already on the way to achieving at least about 3%, if not more, or higher than 3% growth in 2026. Because if you look at the trajectory in the last 3 years, we've had 3 consecutive years of good growth, and it is arising out of a very clear, transparent, accountable, no surprise policy agenda that this government has pursued in the last 3 budgets, and in this budget as well. And so I commend the bills to the House, and once again I thank the Honourable Minister of Finance for bringing all this bill and having a very successful budget session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank the Honourable Professor Biman Prasad. I will now call on the Honourable Minister of Finance to speak in reply.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. I thank honourable members, all the honourable members for their contribution to the consequential bills for 2026-27 budget. Honourable Speaker, based on the contributions to this motion, I believe that we are all clear on the intent of the legislative amendments that are required to give effect to the policy measures contained in this budget. Your comments are noted, and most of the questions raised by the oppositions were asked at the same time during consultations and accounted for. And these are the best options that we have. And most of the pertinent matters are covered or will be covered in the policies. Honourable Premila is not here. And I'm also encouraged by the strong support for these changes, as reflected in the 77.7% support received for the appropriation bill last night, with 85 honourable members voting in favour out of the 45 members present in Parliament last night. Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate that the government remains committed to maintaining a tax system that is simple, transparent, efficient and fair, while ensuring that sufficient revenue is raised to fund essential public services and national development policies. As honourable members would have noted, there are a few substantive tax policy changes in this budget. The only significant new tax measure is the introduction of the tourism services tax, which has been designed to provide much needed support for Fiji Airways, recognizing its strategic importance to our tourism industry, connectivity, and the wider economy. And just for information, tourism services tax came through from tourism sector, tourism industry itself. We conducted a few meetings with them, and the last one was yesterday. So we agreed that this tax is essential for Fiji Airways. And the only issue left is for FRCS and the industry to work on the policy, the details. And the industry are aware that Fiji Airways is important. Imagine if Fiji Airways took out, say, 15% of their services. That will lead to a major decline or major effect on tourism operators' revenue. And we are aware of how these tourism operators operate, and they are aware as well. That's why they are not only targeted, they are the one that came up with those policies. And beyond this measure, the remaining tax amendments are largely technical, administrative, and consequential in nature, aimed at improving the operation of the tax system rather than introducing new tax burdens. Mr. Speaker, sir, following the major revenue measures introduced in the previous budget, this budget largely maintains the existing tax settings. Our focus is on strengthening tax compliance and administration to ensure that everyone pays their fair share, while providing certainty and stability to businesses, investors, and taxpayers. So it's important that maintaining a stable and predictable tax regime is critical for supporting investments, fostering business confidence, and sustaining economic growth. I will not go into the details of the opposition members' views, because some of those are already catered for by the comments by the Honorable Minister of Education, as well as Honorable Prasad. But however, on the EVs, what I can say is that currently, import duty exemption is still in place for them. So that is compared to the diesel and the petrol vehicles that we have. So the other issue too is that we have other incentives that are there in tax and customs incentives for the EVs, charging stations, and related infrastructures. And the other reason is to close a loophole that is there. That is for buyers who buy from a local dealer, they pay VAT. But for those who import e-vehicles directly, they don't. So, Honourable Speaker, with those few words, I commend these bills to Parliament and thank you once again.
I thank the Honourable Restrom Emmanuel, the Minister for Finance, for his response. Now, the Parliament will now vote. The question is pursuant to the resolution of Parliament on Friday, the 26th of June, 2026, that the following consequential bills be debated, voted upon, and be passed. 1. Tax Administration Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 2. Income Tax Budget Amendment Number 2, Bill 2026. 3, Value Added Tax Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 4, Customs Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 5, Customs Tariff Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 6, Excise Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 7, Fiji Revenue and Customs Service Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 8, Tourism Service Tax Bill 2026. 9, Fiji National Provident Fund Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 10, Reserve Bank of Fiji Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 11, Exchange Control Budget Amendment Bill 2026. 12, Super Yacht Charter Budget Amendment Bill 2026. And 13, Tertiary Scholarships and Loan Service Budget Amendment Bill 2026. Does any member oppose the motion? No. As no member opposes, the motion is agreed to unanimously. Secretary General.
The following bills. 1, a bill for an act to amend the Tax Administration Act 2009. 2, a bill for an act to amend the Income Tax Act 2015. 3, a bill for an act to amend the Value Added Tax Act 1991. 4, a bill for an act to amend the Customs Act 1986. 5, a bill for an act to amend the Customs Tariff Act 1986. 6, a bill for an act to amend the Excise Act 1986. 7, a bill for an act to amend the Fiji Revenue and Customs Service Act 1998. 8, a bill for an act to impose tax on tourism services and for related matters. 9, a bill for an act to amend the Fiji National Provident Fund Act 2011. 10, a bill for an act to amend the Reserve Bank of Fiji Act 1983. 11, a bill for an act to amend the Exchange Control Act 1950. 12, a bill for an act to amend the Super Yacht Charter Act 2010. And 13, a bill for an act to amend the Tertiary Scholarships and Loans Service Act 2014, enacted by the Parliament of the Republic of Fiji.
Secretary General.
Adjournment.
I now call on the Leader of the Government in Parliament to move the adjournment motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Parliament adjourns until Monday, 17 August 2026 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Honourable Speaker, I second the motion.
Honourable Banivalu, honourable members, the Parliament will now vote. The question is that Parliament adjourns until Monday, the 17th of August, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. Does any member oppose? No. Since no member opposes, the motion is agreed to unanimously. Honourable members, I once more extend my sincere appreciation to each of you for your valuable input throughout the budget deliberations, culminating in the passage of the 2026-2027 national budget last evening. We've had a very long and demanding 5 days, which easily saps the strength of any ordinary individual, let alone the slightly elderly amongst us. So allow me to comment, or once again, to commend the Minister for Finance and Business Development, the Honorable Esrom Emmanuel, along with his Permanent Secretary, Mr. Sri Ganda, and the officials at the Ministry of Finance for their commendable efforts and successful delivery of the national budget. So, honorable members, before we adjourn, please join me in wishing our Flying Fijians all the best in the game against Scotland early on Sunday morning. Parliament will now stand adjourned until Monday, 17th August 2026 at 9:30.